Two men, two legacies, two shadows cast over the American Mafia. On one side, Agnello John Neil Dellacroce, the underboss of the Gambino crime family known for his icy stare and a reputation for ruthless violence. On the other, John Sonny Franzese, the underboss of the Colombo family, suave, calculated, and one of the longest-living mafia figures in history. But who had the greater impact? Who was more popular, more feared, and who left the bigger mark on the underworld? Neil Dellacroce, known as the Tall Guy or Father O'Neill due to his solemn priest-like demeanor, was a prominent figure in the Gambino crime family, one of New York's most powerful mafia organizations. Born and raised in New York City, he grew up in Little Italy, where he was exposed to organized crime from a young age. He eventually became a protege of Albert Anastasia, the ruthless leader of the Mangano crime family, later the Gambino family. After Anastasia's assassination in 1957, Carlo Gambino took control of the family, and Dellacroce was made underboss, the second highest position of power. Known for his strict adherence to mafia rules and a brutal reputation, Dellacroce commanded fear and respect, both within the family and from rival groups. Dellacroce oversaw the Gambino family's blue-collar rackets, which included extortion, drug trafficking, loan sharking, and murder for hire. His authority was respected, even by high-profile mobsters like John Gotti. While Carlo Gambino preferred to maintain a low profile, Dellacroce embraced the old-school mafia code of omerta, silence, and instilled discipline within the organization. One of Dellacroce's most significant legacies was his mentorship of John Gotti, who would later become the boss of the Gambino family. Gotti viewed Dellacroce as a father figure and often sought his advice. When Paul Castellano succeeded Carlo Gambino as the boss, many members, including Gotti, felt Castellano was unworthy of leadership. This discontent eventually led to Castellano's infamous 1985 assassination, which Gotti orchestrated after Dellacroce's death. Dellacroce died of cancer on December 2, 1985. His death removed a key figure of balance in the Gambino family. Without his restraint, Gotti and his crew felt emboldened to kill Castellano just 2 weeks later and seize control of the family. Many historians argue that if Dellacroce had lived, Gotti would have never been allowed to carry out the hit on Castellano as it violated traditional mafia protocol. John Sonny Franzese Sr. was a prominent figure in the American mafia, serving as the underboss of the Colombo crime family. Born in Naples, Italy, he moved to Brooklyn, New York as an infant. His criminal career began in the 1930s, and he quickly rose through the ranks due to his ruthlessness and strategic acumen. Franzese became a made man in the Profaci crime family, later the Colombo family in 1950, and was promoted to underboss by 1963. He was heavily involved in various criminal activities, including racketeering, extortion, and loan sharking. Notably, he financed the infamous pornographic film Deep Throat and the horror classic The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, using these ventures to launder illegal earnings. Throughout his life, Franzese was arrested multiple times but often evaded long-term imprisonment. In 1967, he was sentenced to 50 years for orchestrating bank robberies, but was paroled in 1978. He faced several parole violations and was reincarcerated multiple times. In 2011, at the age of 93, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for extortion, becoming the oldest federal inmate in the U.S. at the time. He was released in 2017 at the age of 100. Franzese's legacy in the American Mafia is marked by his unwavering commitment to the mob's code of silence, or omerta. Authorities believe he was involved in numerous murders, yet he never cooperated with law enforcement, earning him respect within the Mafia. Dellacroce and Franzese couldn't have been more different. Dellacroce was a throwback to the old-school ways, violence first, questions later. His presence alone was enough to keep Gambino soldiers in line. Street soldiers said he had the eyes of a killer. When John Gotti was just a rising hood, it was Dellacroce he idolized. Franzese, on the other hand, embraced the high life. He wasn't just about backroom deals, he wanted front-row seats. He hobnobbed with celebrities, financed Hollywood films, and became a fixture in New York's nightlife. He symbolized the gentleman gangster, using charm as a weapon just as sharp as a knife. Neil Dellacroce wasn't just respected, he was feared. As underboss, he ran the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club, a key hub for the Gambino family. His control over John Gotti and other captains made him untouchable. If Carlo Gambino was the godfather, then Dellacroce was the executioner. His influence extended deep into New York's construction, trucking, and loan sharking rackets. Franzese, meanwhile, had influence beyond crime. He was a businessman involved in record labels like Buddha Records, and famously backed films like Deep Throat. His financial acumen brought the Colombo family legitimate wealth, and unlike Dellacroce, he had a sense of celebrity status. Franzese moved in social circles Dellacroce avoided, dining with actors and musicians. Who was more feared? Without question, Neil Dellacroce. His mere presence was enough to freeze a room. His nickname, the Tall Guy, wasn't just about his height, it was about his larger-than-life presence. John Gotti himself once said, "Neil's eyes could kill you before his hands did." He was the enforcer, the man you'd call to send a message. And trust us, nobody wanted that message. Sonny Franzese didn't need to lift a finger to inspire fear. He was known for his cold, quiet threats. He didn't bark orders, he whispered them. One story claims he told a man, "You'll be wearing cement shoes before you finish that drink." People feared Sonny because he didn't look dangerous. Until it was too late. Dellacroce's death in 1985 was the catalyst for John Gotti's coup. Without his mentor, Gotti moved against Paul Castellano, cementing his own rise to power. But Dellacroce's absence left a void. His death, some say, destabilized the Gambino family. Would Gotti have had the guts to kill Castellano if Dellacroce was still alive? Hard to say. Sonny Franzese's story didn't end with his death. It ended with betrayal. In 2010, his own son, John Franzese Jr., became an informant, sending his father to prison at the age of 93. Unlike Dellacroce, who died respected, Sonny lived to see his family name tarnished by his own blood. But, in true mob fashion, Sonny did his time in silence, never flipping on his crew. So, who had the bigger legacy? Neil Dellacroce's legacy is his reputation as a gangster's gangster. His mentorship of John Gotti changed the mafia forever. Without Dellacroce, there might not have been a Dapper Don. He was the ultimate enforcer, the feared hand of Gambino bosses. Sonny Franzese, on the other hand, was proof that gangsters could thrive in both crime and business. He lived to be 103 years old, outlasting nearly every other mobster of his era. While Dellacroce was remembered as a warrior, Franzese is remembered as a survivor. So, who was more popular? Franzese. He had the celebrity status, dined with stars, and even had his son appear on reality TV. Who was more feared? Dellacroce, without a doubt. His very name sent chills down people's spines. Soldiers who met him knew one thing: you only met Dellacroce once. Who had the greater impact? Hard to say. Franzese left behind wealth, connections, and one of the longest lives in mob history. But Dellacroce shaped Gotti, and through Gotti, he changed the image of the mafia forever. In the end, Dellacroce was the face of fear, and Franzese was the face of finesse. Different styles, different legacies, but both cast long shadows on the underworld. Which mobster do you think had the bigger impact? Leave a comment below. Subscribe for more stories from the world of organized crime.